Welcome to my channel. I'm Dana and this is Mimi's Little City Homestead, and today I'm going to show you how to make strawberry jam with no added pectin, so you don't have to go to the store and buy your pectin. First we're going to start out with our bowl of strawberries, which I've already washed in cold water, and then I've removed the core or the top part and most of the leaves, and we're going to just go ahead and push down with the potato smasher. This is about 10 cups or so, maybe 11 cups of strawberries. Now with strawberry season coming up in June, I thought this would be a good time to show you how I can my jam with the Fruit Saver steam canner. And I'll show you that more after we get most of this smashed up and ready to add our lemons. So for this recipe, I'm going to try to get about 10 cups of mashed strawberries. I'm going to do a lower sugar recipe because I like to taste the fruit and be able to control the sugar a little bit more. So we're going to go with 3 cups for every 5 cups of mashed strawberries. Okay, we have our strawberries all smashed, and now it's time for the lemon juice. The lemon juice has pectin in it. This is what's going to make it so that you don't have to use pectin from the store. So for this recipe right now I have about 4 large lemons, and I'm going to need a half a cup per 5 cups of mashed strawberries, and in my case that means I'm going to need a full cup. Let's see if we can use this one. So the easiest thing about this is not only are you going to use your lemon juice inside, but the pith, or the white, it's called the pith, actually has a lot of pectin in it. And the thicker the white, like in this case it's pretty thick, the more pith there is in the lemon, the more of the pectin you're going to get out of it. Then we're going to hang on to those lemon rinds, and I'll show you what we're going to do with them. And these seem to be seedless, so that's good. These are really juicy lemons. For 1 cup of juice, it's going to take 2 very large lemons. All right, so now I have my 1 cup of lemon juice, and I've got my lemon rinds here. So we're going to stir in 1 cup of lemon juice into the strawberries. Give that just a little bit of a stir. We're going to do 3 cups of sugar per 5 cups of smashed strawberries. So I have 10 cups. I measured it out. I'm going to, well, it's a little over 10 cups, but that's okay, it's close. I'm going to go ahead and add my sugar. 6. So we have our 6 cups of sugar, our 1 cup of lemon juice, and our strawberries. I'm going to give that a mix. So when you're making jam, you want to have a pan with pretty tall sides, like maybe a Dutch oven or a larger pan than a Dutch oven if you have it. Because when these boil, and we have to bring them to a boil, up to 220 degrees, it's going to splatter around a little bit. I'm going to show you what I have. This is called a jam pan. And a lot of jam pans are made out of copper. They go from anywhere from $200 up to, I've seen them for $600 for a copper pan. But this is the same concept, it's just not copper. But this is made by Kilner. You may recognize that name. That's the English company that makes the jars that you can can with that have the rubber seals and the bales on them. This is made from that same company. The reason it's a jam pan is because traditionally they should have, when you're cooking fruit and sugar or anything like that, a heavy bottom. And the bottom on this is probably 3/4 of an inch thick total. So it's a very heavy pan. The bottom is very heavy and it's stainless steel. It has your handle to carry it to your burner or back. It has your helping handle so that you can actually pour these in jars. I don't do it that way, but it can be done that way. It's got the little spout down here at the end for you to use. And the reason it's a jam pan is because it's narrower at the bottom and it's wider at the top. Part of what helps your jam set up and what makes it thick is that the liquid is escaping in the form of steam. And this is a bigger surface area at the top for the steam to rise out of. So you've got your thick bottom. It's going to keep things from burning as long as you stir it and keep an eye on it. And then the pan expands up into a larger area, and that's just to let more moisture out at one time. That's what a jam pan is. So we're going to turn this around and pour our strawberries into our jam pan. Now, what you want to do with your jam, your strawberry jam at this point, in order to make it thicken without the pectin, we've added the lemon juice already. Now we're just going to add, if there were seeds, I would remove them, but these are seedless. We're going to go ahead and add our lemon right into the jam. And while this is cooking, this is going to help bring the pectin out of the peel. And we will take these out in the end. They'll be removed. But for the time being, we're going to set it on the stove just like it is and start cooking it. And we want to bring this to a boil, 220 degrees for 1 minute. And that's the kind, if you don't have a thermometer, I have a quick thermometer that I'll use. If you don't have a quick thermometer, you can just eyeball it and you know it's reached about 220 degrees when it becomes a boil that you can't stir down. So let's get started and put this on our stove. This will kind of give you an idea. Pull you up here a little more. When it begins to bubble, I'll check the temperature on it. I'll bring you back when it starts doing that. In the meantime, I have my jelly jars in water and I'm bringing that up to a simmer. Anytime you're canning 10 minutes or less, you should sanitize your jars or sterilize your jars in boiling water and keep them hot, because what we're doing is putting hot content into a hot jar, and then it's going to go in our simmering steam canner. So in the meantime, while this is getting ready to cook up, we're going to sanitize our jars. According to modern canning procedures, you no longer have to boil your lids and rings. As a matter of fact, they recommend you do not boil them. So I'll bring you back as soon as this is up to a boil. Okay, this is when I show you, this is a boil that you can't stir down. You notice that it's getting bubbly, it keeps going. You just can't stir it down and make it stop. This is usually the point where you would be at what you need it to be. Also, you'll notice that there's foam inside of this pan. You can always take a small sieve like this and just go around the edges and pick up that foam. If you want a clearer looking jam, this will just make it a little cloudy. It won't hurt anything, but you can always take that out like this, or even just a regular spoon. However, most of the time what I do is put not quite a full teaspoon, just a little under a teaspoon of butter. You drop that in the pan, and you should notice in a little bit that the foam calms down. But this is a good example of a boil that I can't stir down. So now what we're going to do is let it do this boil for about a minute. And after the minute, we're going to turn down the heat to about medium, and we're going to let it simmer. Not quite a heavy boil, but still have bubbles coming up through it. And we're going to let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so now we're at the point where it had boiled at that hard boil for a minute. I turned my heat down. On my stove, it's on low. Yours may be medium low. And you can see that it's still bubbling, but not nearly as ferociously as it was. We do still want it to bubble. We want that steam to escape the pot and thicken it up a little. So that's just to give you an idea of what it should look like during your 15 to 20 minute cooking session. While our jam is cooking for its 15 to 20 minutes, I want to show you a steam canner. Some of you might not be familiar with steam canners. The first thing I want to say about them is they had steam canners back in the probably mid-20s, but these were not recommended as proper canning equipment because they hadn't been tested, but they were used back then. But in 2015, they did do testing on steam canners. These are not for low acid foods, so like your green beans, potatoes, meat, anything like that you would have to can, as always, in a pressure canner. However, your jams, jellies, pickles, tomato, high acid tomato products, those can be canned in a steam canner. It's basically the same procedure and the times are the same as if you were using a water bath canner. Let me show you what the differences are. So first you have this domed lid, and on top of the lid you can see that there's a gauge for zones 1, 2, and 3. And it tells you on the gauge what zone you are if you know what your altitude is. My altitude is under 1,000 feet above sea level, so I'm a level 1. There are different green strips on there according to your zone. There's also a steam hole in the back of the canner, and that will face the back of your stove. So the word fruit saver and your gauge should be facing the front. The reason I like this canner is because instead of the typical water bath canner where you have to fill your water up to about 1 to 2 inches above your jars, this only takes 2.5 quarts of water. Now empty, this aluminum canner weighs a little under 3 pounds. It's lightweight. With your 2.5 quarts of water in the bottom, and this is your rack to set your jars on, it keeps your jars off of the heat source and off the bottom, but your water goes in here, 2.5 quarts. You put in your rack, and then you're going to put the lid on it, and you're going to heat it up on your burner to bring that water up to a simmer. You're raw packing. Then you're going to have your water up to about 140 degrees before you add your jars. If you're hot packing like we are, with the hot jam, hot jars, you want your water in the bottom of this steam canner at about 180 before you add your jars. Once they're in the canner, you're going to put the lid on, and you're not going to take it off at any time. You can get steam burns from this, so you leave your lid on and you're going to turn your heat up to high, and you're going to bring this water to a boil. You have to get your water temperature up so that that red needle is in the green area for your zone, your altitude. Once you're done, you can take your jars, you let it sit for 5 minutes after you shut the heat off. Let it sit 5-6 minutes, don't touch it. And then, as always, lift up the lid away from yourself so the steam doesn't come at you. I like to add a splash of vinegar to water in all of my canners to keep my jars sparkly and keep my water from leaving deposits on the inside of my canner. So I'll be doing that, but that's not something that they suggest you have to do. It's just something that I always do. So steam canning is, the benefits I think is that it's smaller, it doesn't weigh as much, uses less water, uses less electricity because it's going to come up to boil a whole heck of a lot faster than one of those big canners. You don't have to worry about the heavy canner weight on your stove. I have a glass top stove, but I can pressure canning, water bath, and steam can on it. I have a special burner that's for canning. So this is lightweight. And then when you're done, you're not lifting out this heavy rack to hang on the sides of your canner like you do in a water bath canner. So I think there's a lot of benefits when I'm making jam or any kind of jellies. I think this is a lot more economical way to do it, and to me it's easier, and it is approved as of 2015. It is an approved canning method by the National Center for Home Food Preservation. Okay, so we're ready to put on our fruit steamer or fruit saver. I'm going to take out the rack from the bottom, and we're going to pour in 2.5 quarts of water. When you're done putting in your 2.5 quarts of water, that should bring you just under the rack that you're going to set your jars on. One thing you want to remember when you're using these, because there is less water, don't let it boil dry. Now I'm going to go ahead and add just a small bit of my white vinegar. Remember the vent hole in the back? You want that facing the back of your burner. Because I'm in Lower Michigan, I have less than 1,000 feet. So we're going to go down into this darker green area, if you can see that on the lid. My red needle is going to raise as it starts to heat up. I want to get it to about 180 degrees before I put my hot jars in. Take our saucer that we just took out of the freezer. We're going to take a small bit of jam and put it right on the saucer. Let that sit there for a few seconds so that it cools. And then we're going to run our finger through that and see if we can get a path to stay straight through it and not come back together. And that means that we've reached a good gelling point. Finger through that. Tasty. You can see the white path that's gone through the gelling, so that means we're good. Okay, first thing we're going to do now, before we start jarring up the hot jam, run my spatula around the edge a little bit. And then we're going to take out the lemons, which have softened up, as you can see. I'm just going to give them a squeeze. Try to get as much of that liquid and that jam out of there as I can. What's the matter, Benny? Don't you know I'm filming jam? What's wrong with you? It appears I've gotten it all out of there, so we're good. Now we're going to go ahead and process our jars. And now I'm just going to pull them out, fill them. And then we're going to go ahead and put them in our steam canner because hopefully it's up to steam. I did wash my hands with soap and water, so my hands are super clean. So now we're going to take our debubbling tool and our ladle and our funnel. Fit the funnel on the top. Fill our jars. What we're looking for when we're filling our jam jars is a 1/4 inch headspace. And that means headspace, in case you're not familiar, if this is something new for you, headspace is the amount of air between the top of the food you're putting in the jar and the lid of the jar. I've done it long enough, I can eyeball it. You'll get to that point too if you aren't already. So now I'm going to take a little bit of vinegar and a paper towel, and I'm just going to wipe around the rim of my jar now. And the reason for that is I want a seal to stick to that jar. So I'm going to go around here with the vinegar and remove any sugar or juices, strawberry pieces, whatever might be on the edge of that jar. I'm going to take my lid, trying not to touch the underside piece, and place it on top of my jar. Now the next step is pretty important too. If you've canned before, you already know probably all about this, but this is a band or a ring. And we're going to put that on our jar. And I'm going to just spin it until it has a tiny bit of resistance. It wants to turn now. So there's the resistance. Then I'm going to give it a small quarter turn, not even that. The reason why you have to leave them fingertip tight and give them a little bit of leeway is because the air inside this jar when it's canning is going to escape. And it has to have the lid on loose enough for that air to escape so there's no bacteria left in there, but it can't be too tight where it holds the lid down and gives you a false seal. There, it's resisting, so I'm going to give it a quick turn. Put another one on. It's starting to give resistance, it's turning. And I'm going to go ahead and continue canning more jars until I'm out of jam, or I have about 8 or 9 half pints. Okay, and this is the debubbling. We want to just go down a few sides of the jar. Make sure the bubbles are not in there and it doesn't change your head space. Okay, just to give you an idea, this is simmering right now. I have my instant thermometer. I'm trying to bring it up to 180 degrees Fahrenheit because I have hot packed my jars. We're at 180 right there. So, and I'm just going to use my handy dandy jar lifter. Set them on the tray. Away from the edges, commonly known as jelly jars, half pints. Now we're going to put our lid on, again with the hole facing the back of the stove. There it fit on, it's on there good. Now what we're going to do is wait for that red needle to come up into the dark green area, which is zone 1, and that's me. The steam canner, once I get it up to the correct reading on the dial, is going to can the jelly or the jam for 10 minutes. Now you can see the steam is coming out of it. Let me see where we're at. But we're going to keep watching it as the temperature raises. It's literally been about 12 minutes, and as you can see, we're already in the dark green area for zone 1. As long as I am in that dark green area, I am in the range for my altitude to steam can. So I'm going to give it maybe another minute, and then I'm going to slowly turn my heat down to about a medium, maybe medium high. Our timer's gone off. So we turn the heat off. Don't touch the lid, just leave it there. Let it set 5-6 minutes. Okay, gave it a little more than 5 minutes. I did my dishes. Gonna move the canner over closer to the mat. I have a padded, this was the dishwashing mat I was talking about. Open this canner away from yourself. See all that steam? Set it down over here. Now, this is a time to let them set and get used to the air outside of the canner. So I just let them sit there for a few minutes. Okay, it's been a couple of minutes. I'm going to take them out of the canner, put them on my cloth. A couple of them have pinged already. I don't know if you heard that before I changed the video. I'm trying to keep them nice and straight, not bother the lids. There's a ping. but they still need to set that 12 to 24 hours. I usually go with 16, just because it's right in the middle. By then, everything seems to be okay. With the steamer, this is made, the Fruit Saver is made by the Victorio company. And when they did their testing in 2015, they used the Victorio steam canner in their test. That was one of them. I think there was a couple. But this was one of them they did test. I'm not endorsed by them. I just want you to know that if you're interested in looking for a steam canner, that this one is one that was tested. So that's all there is to it. It's as simple as that. I've got my jars of my yummy strawberry jam. I've made this recipe before and it's always good. So if you choose to and you don't want to use a steam canner or don't have one, you can use your hot water bath canner. It'll be the same recipe. It'll be the same amount of time, 10 minutes once your water comes to a boil. When it's 2 inches over the top of your jars, when it comes to a boil, it's 10 minutes in the water bath canner. Let it cool down. I just like how this is the only water I have left to deal with. I don't have a big, tall canner full of water to deal with. So yeah, if you have any questions about canning this jam, I'll put the recipe in the description. I'll put a link to the National Center for Home Food Preservation. I'll put that link in the description. You can go there, look up the steam canning method, and investigate it yourself. So that's what I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I am very excited to have used the steam canner making strawberry jelly for you, or strawberry jam for you, so you can see how it works, how easy it is, and how lightweight it is. If you have any questions, like I said, let me know down below. If you have a steam canner and you use it often, let me know about that. Just remember, this is for high acid foods, fruits, jams, jellies, pickles, high acid tomatoes, not for low acid foods, green beans, potatoes, meat, anything you need a pressure canner for. This is just a substitute and a quicker way than a hot water bath canner. Next time I'm going to make the bean soup, the Campbell's bean soup. So if you're interested in that, come back to my channel. Please like. That helps me. If you share and subscribe, that helps me. And I appreciate it. Come back and let's do some more canning and some more baking and cooking together. Till next time. Bye, guys.